Hello, seventh grade scholars. Some of you have asked me to review complex sentences with an adverb clause, and so I'm going to do that today. We reviewed that, you learned that concept last week and then took a quiz. Now, on that quiz, I made a mistake, and I'm really sorry. I didn't give you an option of the actual correct answer and claimed that another one was right. And that was just a silly mistake of mine. Thank you for forgiving me. Some of you brought it to my attention, and I appreciate that. So I was able to change it in the middle of the day for some of you, but some of you took the quiz where you were just going to get it wrong almost no matter what. Or if you chose the right one or the wrong one that was right, you would have gotten the point, but you wouldn't have maybe understood the concept. So I went back and made sure that you're not losing points for that. But let's review those four sentences just to make sure that you're solid on that for when our midterm comes up. It's about a week and a half away, and we will have complex sentences with an adverb clause on the midterm. Did I say midterm? I can't remember. But yeah, the midterm is coming up, so one of your big assessments. So complex sentences, let's take a look at this first one. After Ed took lessons, he could swim well. So these sentences should be familiar to you because they were on the quiz. But this is how it is diagrammed. So when you're looking at a complex sentence, it's going to have two different clauses. Remember, a clause will have a subject and a verb. Both clauses will have a subject and a predicate, right? But then you need to determine which one is independent, which one is dependent, and the subordinating conjunction will usually give you a little clue about which one is dependent. Because the dependent clause will have the subordinating conjunction at the beginning of it, and that's your little trigger word. The other tricky thing about dependent clauses is that they can be at the very beginning, or this would be beginning for you, right? The beginning of the complex sentence or the end of the complex sentence. You just have to take a look and find it. So here we've got after Ed took lessons. What if we claimed that's a clause, but what if we claimed that was all by itself and we didn't say anything else? It doesn't make enough sense. And so we know this is our dependent clause, and it starts with after, which is our subordinating conjunction. So when we diagram complex sentences, the dependent clause is going to go at the bottom. So you'll see this here at the bottom is the dependent clause. And we put the independent clause at the top, even if it doesn't start with the dependent clause. So if it starts with, even if it doesn't start with the independent clause will always be at the top when you diagram it. So we would diagram this part first. He could swim well. So subject, he could swim. There's our verb phrase, could swim. How could he swim? Well, there's our adverb. Then we come to our dependent clause, after Ed took lessons. So I know this seems out of order, but when we put this capital here on the subordinating conjunction, we know that's the beginning of the sentence. So then we diagram our subject, Ed, verb took, and then direct object took lessons. Lessons is receiving that action of being taken, so took. Then the trickiest part in my mind is connecting that adverb clause to the word that it's modifying in the independent clause. But you always connect the verb of the adverb clause. So this section here, you always pick the verb. So this is the dependent clause, the dependent or subordinate adverb clause. You always look for the verb and connect the verb to whatever word it is modifying. So after Ed took lessons, then he could swim well. So even if you took away well, it would still make sense. So you're connecting this whole adverb clause to this verb phrase, could swim. Next sentence. Your cat is smaller than I imagined. So again, we're going to look at this. Do we have a subordinating conjunction? We do. It's than. If you didn't know the subordinating conjunctions very well, you could look at your cat is smaller than I imagine. Well, we have subject-verb pairs. So cat is and I imagined. And so you would look at those and know, I see kind of at least where they might be, these different clauses. But your cat is smaller. That's fine. That stands on its own. That's an independent clause. But then I imagined leaves so much out. We don't really know what's being said here. And that's one way to determine. There are other rules to apply to this, but subordinating conjunction at the beginning tells us this is our dependent clause. So we would diagram just as we usually would. This is stuff we know. So cat, subject, is our verb. Finish diagramming. And then we have in the next section here, I imagine. So another subject, verb. So the main thing I'm looking at is let's get our subject verb in place. So I imagine. So your cat is smaller than I imagine. We know that than is our subordinating conjunction and it's going to connect a dotted line to the word that it's modifying. But looking at this as a whole, what is the adverb modifying? We take the verb in that adverb clause and what is it modifying? So smaller than I imagine. So in this case, if the question were like, to what extent smaller, right? So if we have the questions of how, when, where, how often, and to what extent for the adverb clause, to what extent smaller or how much smaller, I guess that could work too. Then I imagined, that much smaller than I imagined. And then you would connect the dotted line up to smaller. Next. So we just have two more. While I was fishing, I caught a fish. Congratulations, yay, you caught a fish. Let's take a look. While I was fishing. While I was fishing what, Mrs. Clayton? So we know that this is going to be our dependent clause. It also starts with a subordinating conjunction, which gives us our little hint, our trigger word, right? So while I was fishing, there's our dependent clause, and then I caught a fish, our independent clause. Remember, even though this is switched around, it seems like we might start with this one. We're starting with the independent clause at the top. So I caught, oops, I forgot something. I forgot a fish. So this right here should be a fish. Oh, you guys, I bet you caught that even before I did. So right here you'd have a fish. What kind of fish or which fish? A fish. So I made a little mistake on that. Can't fix it right this second. So I caught a fish. Here is our independent clause. I caught, verb, subject, verb pair. Then you come down here. Here's our dependent clause. While I was fishing. So we want to take our adverb clause and say, wait a second, what is this modifying? So while I was fishing, what while I was fishing? Well, I caught a fish. What was I doing? I caught a fish while I was fishing. How, when, where, how often, to what extent. So while I was fishing, when, how, when, where. So when, adverb clause is answering when. When did you catch a fish? While I was fishing. So this one's a little clearer in what question it is answering. So while I was fishing, I caught a fish. So we take this verb phrase of our adverb clause and connect it back up to caught. What is it that you were doing? What is the adverb modifying in the independent clause? Caught. When did you catch? While I was fishing. Okay, last one, guys. She can jump higher than Jim can. I hope I don't have another mistake in this one. Crazy Mrs. Clayton. So she can jump higher than Jim can. This one seems a little bit tricky, especially once you look at it and think, wait, what's that than doing over there? Let's not worry about that yet. Let's first look at she can jump higher than Jim can. Okay, so what's our dependent clause? Than, we know, is a subordinating conjunction, or even if we didn't know, can we say she can jump higher? Yes. Can we say than Jim can? If I yelled that out in the middle of class, then Jim can. You'd all think I was crazy and you'd want me to finish my sentence, or you'd say, then Jim can what? What are you talking about, Mrs. Clayton? But if I said, she can jump higher, maybe you'd still think I'm crazy, but you would know that that was a sentence that made sense, right? An independent clause. So we find our independent and our dependent clauses, and we know the subordinating conjunction is than. She can jump. This is supposed to be capital. I hope it looks like it is. It looks like it might be a little lowercase. So she can jump. Here's our verb phrase. And how can she jump? Higher. Okay, cool. We've got that. And then we have than Jim can. So subject of than Jim can is Jim. And then verb is can. So if Jim can. Take the whole adverb clause and think, what is this adverb modifying? Well, it's modifying another adverb. So it's modifying higher than Jim can. So she can jump higher. Oh, how much higher? Or to what extent higher? than Jim can? No one really asks those questions, but that's a way to determine. Also, when you have your adverb clause, you know that it can only modify a verb, adjective, or another adverb. So it's not going to go modifying a noun. So none of these have it modifying a noun. This one is modifying a verb. This one, what is this modifying here? An adjective, a predicate adjective. Now we've got over here modifying another verb. So we know all these adverb clauses are modifying a verb, adjective, or another adverb. Okay, that's your review on complex sentences with adverb clauses. We'll do more practices. On your test, you will have a little pictures of diagrams, and you'll match a sentence to the picture of just the red lines of the diagram, just like we did before on your final. Okay, you guys keep going. I'll give you some more examples to practice with later this week.